Hello and welcome to this edition of Mwanzo Spaces. And today we'll be talking about keeping the spirit of activism alive in this era. For your reference, this is a special space. It is centered around a series called Shangazi Power that I'm more than proud to be the producer of. Shangazi Power is actually a very powerful series that we have made together with some of the most outstanding women who have proven time and again as women who can make a change. We call it Shangazi Power. For those of us who speak Swahili, we understand very well that Shangazi Power means basically it's aunt, but specifically it is your father's sister. And based on that, we are actually having a conversation. We did last year. We had a conversation similarly, and also we did coverage with some of the outstanding Shangazis like Fatma Karume, Jerotich Sei, and the others. Today, we will be talking to somebody that some of you may know, but may not be so much aware. Her name is Mudhoni, but she's better known as Judy. She calls herself Judy. That was when she was in school. I've pinned up here the documentary that we made with her. It is also available on YouTube. It's a over 50 minutes worth of documentary. It's a very, very intriguing story of this woman who, at a very young age, when she was in university, became part of the second liberation for Kenya. And in that second liberation movement, she worked with Wangari Maathai and many others. She actually was a key activist in the RPP, Relatives of Political Prisoners. For those of us who may recall from that time, this was a time when the Moi regime was cracking down on opposition, and activists were pushing for change. The reason that Mudhoni is a very intriguing person and an absolutely outstanding Shangazi is that she has been working since her university years up to now very hard to make change. She remains one of the few activists. In the interview that is available on YouTube, she has talked a lot about life as an activist. She's given also her views about what activism looks like today, especially in her country, Kenya. And she's been also very critical about the prospects of activism. And that is something that we would like to discuss with her. Just for reference, she's also somebody who has been living a very modest life, a very low-key, she's not the person that you'd meet usually in your everyday activities or, in those workshops and meetings that happen among the major CSOs. She's not really on the front line, but she's somebody who also truly believes that there's still a lot of room for change. She also believes to work a lot with people on the ground in up country, especially women. So I would really like to recommend just getting some time and watching this documentary. The other important thing that Mudhoni has discussed is also some of the hardships she went through as basically an activist. She was thrown into jail at one time during the Moi era, and several times she was detained. She's given a very graphic and horrific recount of what happened when she was thrown into jail, which included basically having some health-related issues. All this is part of the documentary where she's been talking about. As I'm the co-host of this space together with Joy Chepto, and I'm trying to check in with her to see whether she's been able to get Mudhoni. Joy?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in tonight's space. Currently assisting Judy. She's having a bit of a technical challenge joining in the space, but we should have it resolved soon, and then we can pick up the conversation from there. So in the meantime, maybe probably if you've watched the space that has been linked up there in the over there at the pin, maybe you have watched her episode, or you could be probably having questions for her or comments. Probably you're inspired by her journey and her struggle, especially during the second liberation in Kenya. Maybe you could leave one or two words of encouragement or questions to Mudhoni, Sister Mudhoni, as we wait for her to join in the space.
I would also like to encourage now for those who want to ask questions regarding Sister Mudhoni, some of the things that she has discussed. And I would recommend as well for us to be able to listen a little bit to part of her interview. I will be playing it here in the space so that you'll understand. There's some really good moments, I think, in that interview where Sister Mudhoni is talking about how she went from a very local school to study in one of the more outstanding secondary schools, and she was facing some form of segregation, we can say, whereby some of her classmates made fun of her accent, and she was defiant. So she started her activism, and immediately she started to defy them and to go and to say that they're not supposed to actually make fun of her accent. So she has got quite a lot of things to talk about, and I think that that will be part of the conversation today. I'm trying to also make sure that those of you who have not seen it can now listen a little bit to that part, and then we will be joining in a bit later. So try to listen to what Mudhoni has to say.
Tuwauawa kila mahali, na yote kwa makombo wanayotupiwa. Now, Mudhoni Kamau is a mother of four, a proud mother of four, an activist actually, because I've also used theater around Nairobi. I'm known for leading protest songs, not only composing but leading them. There was a time protest marches would not happen in the streets unless I'm there to lead them. And so I consider myself an activist because I use theater as well to mobilize and to pass messages, especially singing.
So that was a brief introduction. And just to make sure that you all know, Mudhoni has also been featured in a number of research and books that has been written about the second liberation. Specifically, she's also been featured in places where they have actually been featuring those activists who are fighting for their relatives. So it's called the prisoners, political prisoners, relatives of political prisoners committee. She was also part of the group of women who were in church fighting also for equality. So let's listen a little bit about her experience from university.
To go and check on the reopening date. The university had been shut down because they had introduced the system of evidence paying as they eat. Okay, so we protested against that, and the university was shut down for a whole year. So I was going to check on the reopening date, and then I see the tents had vibes about prisoners, and so I grabbed the tents. Where did that come from? Remember the story of Matigari? Remember my mother encouraging me to read to her, and then going to Pangani and confronting, those were politics, of struggle. I mean, even what we did at that time, it could have looked very juvenile, but that was part of struggle. You struggle for culture and struggle for understanding that the way I speak a foreign language does not define me. So I joined the mothers, and then we were dispersed on the third day. For me, the second day that I got there, we were dispersed. I didn't sleep at the tents because I was living with my sister then, and she would have worried, where I went. You remember there were no telephone them days, so I had to go home. And then the mothers were dispersed, and then they came back to the cathedral, and I went to the cathedral, and I stayed with those mothers for a whole year. With Wangari Maathai, with Njerica Beberi, and for me, I stayed a whole year. I never went back to my room in campus. A whole year, I stayed with them, and until all the political prisoners were released except one, Apinia Fiambo, and now we persuaded the mothers that it was time for them now to go home. And I dare say that RPP, the Release Political Prisoners Pressure Group, is the one that popularized even street dissent. Before then, we had national organizations, but mostly they were professional bodies, like the LSK, like the ICJ. These are professional bodies, and they weren't really challenging much the status quo. They were not. We didn't say they were. They were quite okay, and that is okay because they are professional bodies, so they were taking care of their members. Until RPP came around, and people saw that no matter how strong or tough a regime is, it can be opposed, and you can stand up. So we started organizing protests, but with time we started organizing this, and the cathedral where the mothers were became our base. From there is where we started organizing, and that is where even RPP took shape. RPP was actually formed in London. They announced a committee for the release of political prisoners in Kenya. Okay, and then the whole idea was picked by mostly the relatives and the community members in Nakuru, and then they approached Professor Wangari Maathai to give them backup, and then fast forward to the hunger strike. And for the 1 year that we stayed there, we formalized, we were able to get these people released. Some of them came straight from prison and joined us. At least 3 of them. There was Karim Ndudu, the late. He was murdered by the Moi regime. There was Tirop Kitur, and there was Kanyade Mungai. So the 3 of them came straight from Naivasha Maximum Prison, straight to the cathedral. They didn't go to their homes. And so with that, we were able to formalize RPP to a proper pressure group. We decided not to seek for registration, but at the beginning, it was a pressure group. And funding for our activities came from us, didn't come from. For 6 years, we operated with our own funds. We would meet right there at the bunker of the cathedral, or much later when the mothers left, Njerica Beberi, who was our first chairperson, gave us a desk in her insurance office, and that's where we'd meet. So especially I did a lot of that because I was a student and I never had any job. So others would contribute, and then Mudoni and a few others would do the actual work. So you'd have to eat at home, go to Machakos, board a bus, in the evening, travel at night, get to Kisumu in the morning, go to the prison by 9, 10, visit the prisoners, then you leave, and then you get the day bus back to Nairobi, because you will have to go eat back at home and sleep at home, because you have only money to buy supplies for the prisoner and for your for your fare. No money for food on the way, no money for sleeping anywhere outside there. And that is the life of an activist who understood what we were doing.
Make sure you don't miss this really compelling story from Mudhoni, Sister Mudhoni, as they call her. I would like to also welcome, as I said, comments and also some of the inputs that there might be. I'm seeing my brother Mwaura, as always. You're there. I know that in another space, usually in Swahili, you tell us a lot about what we call the second liberation in Kenya. Tunasema ukombozi wa pili wa Kenya. So I know that you actually made references to a few, but this is one of the few. I would be very interested to hear your input as well. Maybe as we are waiting for Sister Mwaura, can you tell us? I don't know if you've had the chance, but if you can grab the mic and then maybe just tell us if you've listened right now or even before from Sister Mwaura. What can you recall from those days that she's been referring to, especially for the cathedral? I'm going to try to send you the mic or to invite you to speak. Karibu sana Kaka Mwaura. While we're waiting for Mwaura to join up, I'm also trying to check with you. Joy, how are we standing?
Still trying to get Judy to join in. In the meantime, I think we can be getting maybe a few a bit of feedback from people before Judy can join.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Joy. Kaka Mwaura, karibu sana. I think you've heard here Sister Mudhoni. Sijui namfahamu Sister Mudhoni?
Yes. Yes.
She's apparently she's very famous, but she's not glam famous, but she's got a very solid reputation in the community.
Yes, and she's mostly out of the shadows.
Yes,
we mostly don't hear her.
Yes, it's true. It's true. I think when she comes, she will talk about it. It is also in the documentary. She talks about how she has struggled actually with depression. She went into acute depression. So that is going to be something I think that we will be definitely trying to get from her. But what are your thoughts? I don't know if you were able to see the whole 50 minutes or just part of it. What are your thoughts, Mwaura?
I saw the whole documentary, and let me first say that we were the community that was mostly affected by Moi regime, because we are the Kikuyus. Let me say, I'm still a Kikuyu anyway. And
yeah, you don't cease to be a Kikuyu. Yeah,
yeah, I'm still one. Yeah, and then so I was really following this issue, because that's the time when I was in high school, and that's what even put me an interest, because most people, particularly from my community, the Kiku, had been dropped from the government. Our business were being corrupt and everything like that. He killed the coffee industry that was the backbone of the Kikuyu. He killed the banks of the Kikuyu, and he was a total dictator. But Moi was very good to the thing we call divide and rule. What he used to do, he could get like few people from the Kikuyu community, like the Joseph Kamodos, and then he'll use them against as the Kikuyu. But when these women, I think this group of women, also they give Moi 3 press nights. And I particularly remember the Koiguamure's mother, the mother the Wangari Madai. I normally refer you Shangazi as Wangari Madai of Tanzania. Yes.
Yes, I recall. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And the climax, I think it became a climax one day when I was in Nairobi and these women had said they are going to remove their clothes in broad daylight when they were confronting Moi. And I think that was a turning point for me because from that time Moi started looking things from another angle. And he killed a lot of activists in Kenya. I remember them. He named people like Kele Sanegido Matiba. All these they came a little bit later, but he made him what do I call it? He paralyzed when he was still in detention. But those were the days when, uh, apart from the difference between those days and today is that during those days, Shagas, if you remember, our university students used to be very, very active. I think activism used to start from university students. And then or even when they leave the university, then they continue the activism. And right today, whereby our universities are very silent, you don't hear any activism, not in Tanzania, not even in Kenya. So I don't know where the disconnect is. What's wrong with this generation of today? But looking backward, I see people like Mudhoni, people like we had also activists like someone called Tito Adugosi, Muhanga Mwadawiro, the James Orengo, the Sia senator, who is now the Jero Kabango. Those people, they were at the university, they were very vibrant. And people like Boni Harware, who is the majority today leader in the Senate today, they were very, very active when they were at the university. But nowadays, we don't see that thing going on. I think there is a disconnect between that generation and today's generation. But the problem I see is that those days people who used to go to the university were very, very mature. They were fully concerned about what was happening in the country. And this is what made them, as university students, know and see that the country is going in the wrong direction. And right today, we have people of 20, 19 years, those are the ones who are graduating 21 years, who are clueless about what is happening. And also, there was no lot of distraction. You remember those days when we were in high school, 90s, there was nothing like social media. We didn't have social media, but still people used to gather. But nowadays people are stuck to their phone and such kind of thing. So activism has somehow come down. But I thank God that we still have some people who still have a lot of activism in them and they still move it on. People like Boniface Mwangi in Kenya, they are still moving on with their activity of it. But in my conclusion, I would like to say that activism has somehow come to a halt among the many youth people, even in Kenya. Not very many people nowadays are in activism. But in those days, it was good. And these are the people who brought the second liberation, particularly this one who was meeting in this church. They really played a key role in the IPPG and in making sure that we start the process of getting our new constitution. So I really thank them and I say that may God bless those who have already passed and those who are still living. May God continue to bless them. I think I'll talk more because I have something to do for 5 minutes and I'll come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Kaka Mwaura. Asante sana.
Yeah.
And what you talked about also is the recognition, and that's something that Sister Mudhoni has been saying, recognition of women who actually took part in this liberation. And she talks a little bit about the challenges in that documentary, which I wanted to play a little bit here in the space, so that when she comes, I think we can also get more questions for her to answer about it. But just as I said at the beginning of the space, she was also arrested and she went through a lot. Let's listen a little bit to what she was able to tell us. Just 1 minute. Activists overall. She recalls how being a woman gave her a different experience of the second liberation struggle.
We get arrested. The man is taken to the cells for 2 weeks. I'm taken to the cells for 2 weeks. Yes, same time. But I get my periods when I'm in the cells. There's no water. Him is not showering, yes. But I'm also not showering. But can you imagine you're in your peace and you're not showering? Do you understand what I'm talking about? Okay? The first time I was in the cells for 5 days. And the men got released before me. Okay? But when I came out, my feet up to the ankle, they peeled like the way the snake sheds its skin. Because in these cells, you're locked in your own cell, and then there is the common toilet at the end of the corridor. Now, if you have to use the toilet, you have to knock for the guard to come and open, and then you have he will stand there, and you'll have to walk into that toilet. And I think that toilet had broken down like 5 years or 3 years, I don't know how long. All that acid had overflown almost outside the corridor. And he's standing there and he's telling you, and remember when you're arrested, the first thing when you're getting booked, the first things you give up are your shoes. They claim you might hang yourself with the shoelaces, your belt, your whatever, okay? So you don't have shoes, okay? And then you have to step on this acid because you can't relieve yourself in the corridor. He's standing there. You have to step on that acid to the inside, okay? And then you're not like washing yourself after that. You are walking back to your cell room the same way, okay? So we suffer more because of our biological makeup, okay? Tear gas in the streets. I don't know whether you have had tear gas in the streets. My dear, if you're in a skirt or in a dress like this, you take in the tear gas from all sides. That's a fact, okay? So the men are busy wiping their eyes. You also are wiping your eyes, but the tear gas is also going through other places. Okay, if you know what I mean, I don't have to elaborate more than that. So, and then being a woman, you are subjected to more torture. Like, unafanya nini? What are you doing here with men? Eh? Don't you have a husband? Because what you are doing to them should not be done by women. You are shamed. You are shamed. You are subjected to more psychological torture just for being a woman. We went through all that, you know. Then at the family level, unless you have a very understanding partner, you see what I mean? Unless you have a very understanding partner and family, you will find it very rough. And
so for those of you who are joining us, we are actually discussing being an activist, and this is part of a special series called Shangazi Power. We are looking at powerful women who have made a difference in their society, and today our focus is on Judy Muthoni Kamau, better known as Sister Muthoni, who was part of the second liberation movement in Kenya. But she also has remained an activist, as she is a very independent one. And today we're trying to have a conversation around keeping the spirit of activism alive in this era. Mwanzo is also a regional the TV, so we would like to also welcome those who are more comfortable speaking in Kiswahili. Kama utapenda kuchangia pia kwa Kiswahili unakaribishwa. Kama mlivyoona tuko na mwanamama anaitwa Muthoni Judy. Yeye ni mwanaharakati, alipigania ukombozi wa pili wa Kenya ambao ulizaa matunda ya katiba yao mpya, lakini pia mfumo wa vyama vingi na hatimaye kuitoa chama tawala KANU kutoka madarakani. Judy alikuwa katika harakati ya kuwakomboa wale ambao walikuwa wafungwa kisiasa, na RPP, Release Political Prisoners, ilikuwa pia ni movement, haikuwa taasisi mwanzoni. Alikuwa amejiunga akiwa ni mwanafunzi wa chuo kikuu. Leo tunachouliza ni kwamba je, tunaweza tukaendeleza vipi harakati katika kipindi hiki ambacho tunaishi. Kwa hiyo kama utakuwa na swali au utakuwa na mchango wowote, basi tunakukaribisha sana kwa ajili ya kuuliza maswali. Jisikie huru hata kuongea kwa Kiswahili. Hii ni dual language space, kwa hiyo tunaongea tu Kiingereza kwa sababu wapo ambao kutoka Uganda au nchi nyingine wanaweza wasielewe vizuri Kiswahili. Lakini let me just check in with Judy again, with Joy again. Joy, do we have Judy on the line?
Hi, Maria. Sorry, Judy is still having a bit of technical challenges. I'm trying to help her sort them out so that she can come and join in the conversation.
Okay,
So,
allow me,
the
Joy.
listener-
Okay,
yes.
allow me, Joy, to sort that through my through my mic, and then
Okay.
maybe you can continue to take questions while I get Judy on my end.
All right. Okay. Sure. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right. My apologies once again for the delay, as we still try to sort out the connection problems with Judy. But as you've heard from the episode that we were playing on the Shangazi series on our YouTube channel, that is Mwanzo TV. We are trying to liberate specifically Judy and her struggle during the second liberation as a freedom fighter. And we really want to know if the spirit of activism is fading away or what is happening in the current era of fighting for against oppression and fighting against, corruption within the society. What is happening to activists of today's world? What is happening to activism in the society now? We don't hear much from them as we used to, or we don't see them, having demonstrations out there. What is happening? Are they intimidated maybe by the society or the extrajudicial killings that have been happening and the cases that have gone unanswered? Are they being intimidated maybe by the police or extra forces or external forces from the society? We basically want to know what will happen to the next generation. Will they still keep up with the spirit of activism? What is going to motivate them? And remember the heroes that fought for us and fought during this time, just to bring change in different issues or perspectives in the society. So I'd like to welcome, if you have any suggestions or mambo yote ya kuchangia kuhusu this whole situation of activism. It does not have to be human rights activists only. It could be environmental, it could be social, it could be gender-based, anything that you will find these heroes of our countries standing up and fighting against or fighting for justice.
Joy, I've managed to get Judy, so she's listening in right now. So she will be hearing the space, but when it comes to speaking, you have to give her a few seconds to connect her, and then she'll be answering any questions and any conversation. So go ahead. She can hear you now.
Okay, all right. Okay, Judy, thanks. And I'm so sorry for the technical challenges you've been experiencing. Karibu sana to our space tonight. And I think Maria has already given a brief background of who you are, but maybe for the ones who have just joined, I'll briefly take them through who you are before you can actually tell us more about your personality, and even for those who might not have watched the Shangazi Power episode. So Judy Muthoni, or rather Sister Muthoni, she's a well-known Kenyan activist, basically a hero who has stood up for fighting against tyranny, especially during the second liberation in Kenya. That was around 1982 to 1999, against specifically the dictatorship of President Daniel Arap Moi, who was then the president of Kenya, and showing the world that Kenyan people are not afraid to actually fight for their freedom. This was wholly a fight for democracy for her, and just a constitution and a fight for civic space. So her story has been an inspiration to all of us, and her actions will never be forgotten. If you haven't watched her story, let me just remind you that you can head over to our YouTube channel, that is Mwanzo TV, under the Shangazi Power playlist, and you can basically get to know what I'm talking about. Judy has actually been an activist for about 3 decades now, And that is actually another interesting story of how this happened, which is all captured in our Shangazi Power series. So Judy, allow me to welcome you to tonight's Twitter space. She's also known as Sister Mudhoni, and sorry about that. As we kick off this discussion tonight, we'd like to understand what is the real meaning of activism. Many people will just think activism might be just someone who goes out there in the streets just to protest or demonstrate against something. The reality in the society is that most of us look at activists and think maybe they're crazy or idle people. Some say they maybe have been funded by high institutions to disrupt or question the governance in the society. For others, they say it's just passion. So Judy is here to help us understand the base of this force that is driving in the society, and what exactly is it that drives an individual to become an activist. Judy, I don't know if you're able to hear me and if you're able to respond.
Yes, just give me a minute. Let me connect her. She was listening in, so I'm just going to connect her. Yeah, just a minute. Yeah, Judy, you can speak now.
Okay, Maria, thank you so much. And thank you so much, Joy. I'm so sorry for these hiccups. I'm still 50% analog. What is activism? I think the term activism broadly means citizens or a citizen who recognizes their power to engage with the situations they find themselves in, for themselves and for others or for society. It's been given a bad name because always activists are up against some authority or other. But even in the village, when you are helping a pregnant woman get to delivery, that is activism. It's just about a citizen being active and conscious about what they are doing and how it fits in the bigger picture of society and life. Activism cannot be bought. Nobody can pay you to be beaten by police, to be arrested if you're engaging in protests, to be jailed, to be appearing in court, and all the stress that comes to you as an individual and to your loved ones. Nobody can compensate you for that. It comes with a consciousness of mind that somebody somewhere needs to do something about a situation that is oppressive and not good for society or for people. And to me, that is what activism is. It has been split into this or the other, human rights, environmental issues, girl-child issues. Now there's also boy-child issues, and some people look at it as like a competition, like because the girl child has been supported for this long, now we need to focus on the boy child. All forms of misunderstanding. But I think what we need to be aware of is that activism is about citizens raising their consciousness about their own lives and how they can act upon their situations as opposed to wait to be acted upon by others or by situations, and collectively engaging in changing their situations for what they would like, for the betterment of society.
Okay, I'll just ask Joy to wait a bit until I'll try to put them on speaker.
All right. In the meantime, before we can move on, I'm seeing There's somebody here with a question, Suwazi. I don't know if it's a question or a comment. I can hand over the mic to you so that before we continue, you can give us your thoughts.
Okay, he's connecting. Just 1 minute, or she's connecting.
Nsuwazi, you could briefly give your comment or your question.
For the mic, I think you need to be able to know how to turn on the mic. It is on the left below. You will see a sign for microphone. Please turn that on. I think maybe, Joy, you can continue asking questions.
All right. As the speaker Nsuwazi tries to figure out and tries to connect as we wait for Judy, we've already had her speaking about what exactly activism is. Nobody will just wake up today and decide they want to be beaten by police because of money, unless you're crazy. So there's a whole perception in the society about what actually an activist is. And as Mudhoni says, it's something that's deep within you. It's maybe you have identified a particular disturbance in the society or an issue that you feel needs to be changed. You feel like you need to be the voice of reason. You feel like you're the one who can stand up and basically acha niseme kwa Kiswahili kuweza kumobilize watu sasa wajiunge nawe ili sasa muweze kuandamana na kuleta mabadiliko hayo kwenye society. So we have looked at different activists standing up for different issues. It could be gender-based, it could be environmental, it could be even sports. Recently, we have had so many stories and so many issues. We have even heard of so many activists being end up being killed in the process. We have heard of Carol Mwatha, who used to be a vibrant and committed human rights defender. And she was one person who had really dedicated her life to serving the community. And she really works to ensure that the streets were safe for the youth who had been targeted by a series of police killings and random arrests, extortion, harassment, you name it. I'm sure the youth, they can really relate to such situations. You're going about your business in town and you end up being harassed by maybe somebody who claims to be the police or the police for that matter, just because they want to get something out of you, they want to extort you, or they just want to harass you. So Carol Mwatha is an example of an activist who she actually started her activism long before the formation of Dandora Community Justice, and she was really fighting for the cause of changing or making life better for the youth. So unfortunately, she died in the line of duty, in the line of her heroic duty, because she was fighting for change. And then it ended up that her death was really hushed about because the media did not cover that story much. And she's actually not the only one. We have had similar stories. There's also a Carl, I can't remember his first name exactly. There was Alphonse Ngenga, who was still part of the social justice movement. And these are some of the known, or let me say known killings or brutalities that have happened to some of the activists there. And there are so many others. There was Tirop in the sports industry, which caused a whole movement and uproar on social media. So I would like to know maybe from our listeners, how can the younger generation be inspired to celebrate activism or recognize the efforts that some of these heroes who have fought for change in the society? How can we encourage the younger generation to stand up against police brutality or not be intimidated, but still keep fighting for democracy because it is our human right? How can we keep fighting for change without feeling intimidated or fear for, your life or fear oppression? How do you think we can bring about this change in the society? I'd like to get to know your views or your comments on this issue.
Sure. I also wanted to say that I've seen Moya, and I wanted to get her opinion as well in. But before we continue getting in opinion, I wanted to direct my question also to Mudhoni, who, as you've listened earlier on in the space, I've played the part where she was talking about why it's different for a woman, especially some of the challenges. And my question to you, Mudhoni, is going to be mainly asking you whether you think today it is better for women activists than it was before during your time. Just 1 minute. I'm going to connect. Mudhoni to answer quickly that question. Just 1 minute.
Okay. I've seen comments. You have a
Yeah,
question
just hold
or
on. Hold on. Let Mudhoni answer.
Okay.
Okay, go on, Mudhoni. Go on.
Okay. Thank you, Maria. Women face gender-specific atrocities, much as all activists face the same demons. For women, it is somehow not still accepted in society that you can stand up to authority. Remember, authority starts suppressing women from the girl child when you are at home. You are not supposed to be heard. You are supposed to sit in a certain way. You are not supposed to be the one asking questions, not even to parents, even in class. As a student leader, even to date, my comrades at the university called me Man Mudhoni. Even now, that's what they call me, Man Mudhoni. Why? Because to them, being able to do what I did with them, for them, to offer that leadership, to stand up to the authorities, you are a man. You cannot do that if you're just a woman. And this perception is very wrong, such that when we get arrested, you're taken to the cells. Because you are a woman, you face woman-specific abuses, like, what are you doing? What were you doing in the streets instead of cooking for your family? Wewe unapiga umalaya na wanaume out there in the street instead of attending to your husband or attending to your children. Then when it comes to torture, women get raped. Men rarely get sodomized, but women will always get raped when at war. Women, I remember our late colleague and comrade called Josephine Ngengi. Whenever they would arrest her, they would put all sorts of items in her, private parts, bottles, tumors, those police rungus. And she died a broken woman. She died a broken person because of all that torture that she underwent in police hands. And so you can see, much as the men were tortured in all manner of ways, but women also get gender-specific torture that some men are spared just because you are a woman. I said in the interview, and perhaps this may be taken lightly, it's not light. When when they throw tear gas at us, women absorb that tear gas from all corners, from all sides. It is true. So it took us that awareness and to be able to tell our women when we are going out in the streets, please put on pants. Don't come in a dress. Put on some pants because that will protect you in a way. And at home, you also have other pressures. Unless you have a very understanding spouse or partner, unless you have a very understanding family, that's another source of pressure when you are a woman activist, that they may not appreciate you giving your time and your energies focusing on whatever issue that you're focusing on instead of attending to them. And so these are things that activists, both male and female, should be aware of. And even as we struggle, even as we engage, even male colleagues should be aware of this kind of gender-specific problems that face sister colleagues in the struggle. Do I think it is easier now for women activists than our times? First, I don't know, Maria, what our times are, because I'm, I may be in my 50s, but I'm still an activist and I'm still out there and I'm called upon. I will, I'm still doing, I may not be as agile as I was, but I'm still there. The struggle is one protracted war. Is not a one event. It's not a battle, and so it calls on us as activists to be able to join the thread, that we are able to mentor and encourage our younger ones to come in. Hard as it is never easy for any generation. It is never easy. There are complexities that may not have been there in our time. Just like in our time, it may have been easier than in the 80s or 70s, or even during colonial times. There were still people agitating for change in colonial times. You could imagine moving from one district to another, and you had to be vetted at the border. It's like you're coming from Kenya to Tanzania or to Uganda or to another country. And they still did stuff. Was it better in the 90s than it was in the 50s? Of course, yes. Because what they did then opened some space for us who came later in the 80s, in the 70s, and later us now in the 90s. And so the young ones, we may not be able to just compare because they are also facing their own hardships now. But I can tell you, it is way easier that we can actually speak the way we are speaking, and no CIDs maybe are listening in, that we can openly criticize the authorities and get away with it. Perhaps in Kenya, maybe still not the case in Tanzania, but in Kenya, it is better. Have the killings subsided? No, they have not. And in fact, when it comes to that, I don't know how to express it, but it's better when you are detained because people know you are in detention. The torture is not good, but it's better when you are detained or jailed because then we can fight for you and you can have another lease of life. Nowadays, people are just being disappeared. Young people in our informal settlements are just being disappeared. Anyone trying to organize anything, they are living in fear. And hundreds, I had Joy trying to recall names. There are hundreds. We can't recall names in one sitting of the people we have lost in this space of activism. And so, certainly it is easier now because maybe communication is easier. Maybe there's a chance that the authorities may fear arresting and charging you at 8 p.m. or taking you to Nyayo House. Nyayo House has been closed. But on the other hand, it is better to be taken to Nyayo House and we fight for you and you come out alive, as opposed to just burying you. You are just disappeared or you are killed. It's very sad.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mudhoni, for that. You have now taken us through how being a woman gave you a totally different experience through the challenges that you had experienced or you have experienced. Years of fighting an oppressive regime, and all this has definitely affected you mentally, financially, emotionally, physically, especially through the torture that you have just told us you went through. Especially as a woman, your torture was different. The kind of physical and emotional torture you were subjected to was different, just because you are a woman. So how someone who is listening to you right now or looking up to you and is feeling inspired by your story and is wondering why did you go through all this? The point you are right now, are you regretting any of this? Do you regret this journey of blood, sweat, and tears? What fulfillment has it given you as a person? If there's somebody out there who's trying to who's trying to stand up and fight for change or a certain cause in the society, and are thinking, maybe this is not the journey I should take, with all this hardship, is it really worth it? What is the most important lesson maybe you'd like to share about activism to inspire this generation?
Give me a moment. Okay, go ahead, Mudhoni.
Okay, thank you. Never give up. That's the starting point. Never give up. And we cannot afford to give up. Because either way, if we give up the struggle, then we continue dying. If the situation continues to be worse, I think we can reflect on some of our societies like Sierra Leone and the Congo and Somalia, and look at those places. Before people organized, you find people, those with power doing crazy things like cutting people's hands, and so either way, whether we engage or we don't, we're gonna die. So you better die in the battlefront. You better die in the field, as opposed to dying alone in the house. And if not you, who? If not you to fight for change for your children and your children's children, if not you to fight for what is right in society, then who? I think to me that has been my guiding question. Sometimes I get to a point of despair, especially at a personal level, when you see maybe your activism has caused your family to break up. You're dealing with divorce and loss of your children and all that. But I don't regret. I don't regret any bit, because I know whatever little I have done has contributed to the overall change of situation, the way we are experiencing it now. And I always ask myself, the people who engaged in the Mau Mau and the Maji Maji rebellions of this continent, had they not offered themselves, where would we be? Where would we be? Perhaps we would not even have been born, even to have a chance to engage also. And so for any young person who is wondering, why would one go through such pain? Nobody signs up for pain. You don't sign up for those bad things. They happen to you because you're doing the right thing. So all I can urge you is to have the courage, to to study hard, read what others have done, and come up with your own means of encouraging yourself, ways of pushing yourself to push on. Look for others who are like-minded, like you, and offer yourself, because if you don't, who will? And even if you don't, they will still get you. They will get you through taxation. They'll get you through so many ways. You know, they are killing all the avenues of people realizing themselves. Like the health sector is on its knees. The schooling, the education is on its knees. Everything. So even if you want to live a quiet life and not engage in activism, which country? Which one? You know, who will make that country for you? Because none of these politicians mean any meaningful change for people. We just have to keep organizing and educating ourselves and mobilizing ourselves and organizing some more until we get there. So young people, this is your time. This is your generation. We are, slowly age is catching up with us. Please just pick up the mantle. Like Che Guevara said, she doesn't mind dying so long as another comrade is going to pick his gun and move on. This is the same thing. I don't mind dying in the struggle so long as someone will pick on. That's why I started by saying it behoves us as activists to continue connecting this thread. The problem I have found in us, and that is why maybe we don't make a lot of headway in terms of pushing the struggle to realize the correct change, is that we keep breaking the thread. We keep dropping it. We don't learn from the past people who came before us, what they did. You know, like I keep saying, the Mau Mau and the labor movements of the 50s and the 40s, and then come independence period in most African countries, the Nyereres, ideologically and whatever little that they contributed. Even the Kenyattas contributed something. It is us to read, study the histories of these people, pick the positive, drop the negative, and continue connecting this thread. The Wangari Maathais and what they have done, especially for the women movement in Kenya and in Africa. We pick that and move with it. And the young ones to keep riding the wave and creating new waves, new ways of doing things, so that we can reach a point where we can say we are not seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, but we are nearing that light. We are nearing that end of the tunnel. Sorry for a long answer, but yeah, I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
I think at this point, I'd like to now invite any questions or comments and contributions from the listeners, or probably a word of encouragement still to Judy. I can see Clement, I'd like to pass the mic to you.
Nashukuru sana. Utanisamehe dadangu, sikusikia jina lako, unaitwa nani?
Anaitwa Joy.
Naitwa Joy. Karibu sana. Maybe unataka kuuliza swali ama kupitisha ujumbe kwa dada yetu hapa Muthoni, na kukaribisha.
Nashukuru sana dada Joy. Kwanza na maswali mawili mimi, na maswali yangu ni mafupi, na amelenga zaidi katika kupata namna ya kuhamasishana, nikizingatia kwamba siko peke yangu ambaye ni mtu ambaye sina uzoefu sana kwenye masuala ya wanaharakati. Sasa kabla ya yote, kwanza nataka nimpe pole sana da Mudhuni, manake tumesikia hiyo taarifa fupi na najua ni taarifa fupi ukilinganisha na yale yote ambayo amepitia katika maisha yake. Na ile taarifa pamoja na ufupi wake imeonyesha ni namna gani hizi wanaharakati sio jambo rahisi kama wengi ambavyo wanaweza wakawa wanadhania. Kwa hiyo naomba nichukue nafasi hii kwanza kumpa pole kwa yote aliyoyapitia, alafu kumpongeza kwa ujasiri wake, manake kwenye ile taarifa fupi tuliyoiona na tuliyoisikia inaonyesha ni kiasi gani Dkt. Mudhuni ni mtu jasiri wa kupindukia, naweza nikasema hivyo. Sasa nikirudi kwenye
mi simsikii Clement jamani, mnamsikia?
Ni kama Clement amepatwa na changamoto ya internet. Clement, kama unaweza kurudia swali lako kama unatusikia.
Okay, nadhani labda Mwaura, do you have, maybe you can pick up, alafu Clement tujaribu kuendelea kumtafuta.
Okay, asante. Mimi nafikiri nitaongea kwa Kiingereza.
Najua, endelea tu.
First of all, I want to thank Jude very much. I was young. I was in high school when all these started, 1992 all the way to 97. But one of the key factors that these women help, they are the one, we can say, they are the source of the reason as to why Section 2A of Kenya Constitution was repealed in 1992, which had declared that Kenya is a one single party de facto state. Well, that one was very important. These women played a key role. And number two, I like the strategy that these women used, because if you remember Sangazi, the Koiwamwere's mother in this, they were between 60 and 70, 75, around that age. That was their age. And the thing is, in African society, you don't approach to do anything bad to your mother. That's like your mother. And the police officers could not touch these women. So they were afraid of these women. So that's one of the stories that they use. And it worked very much because police officers couldn't dare come and beat these women. Now, another thing that helped them, when their tent was removed from Uhuru Park, they took refuge in All Saints Cathedral. For I think quite 11 months they stayed there. And Archbishop Manasseh Kuria, or the man who was the head of the then Anglican Church, this person was a friend of our family, and he really helped these women. And we thank him very much for the role that he played. He sheltered these women, and when police tried to enter All Saints Cathedral, Archbishop Manasseh Kuria declared All Saints Cathedral a holy ground. And he said that intruders, that's what he used, intruders are not welcomed here. And that made the police to keep away. So they really played a key role. And as Judah has said, that activism is not necessary that you are fighting for human rights. You can be active in every other way. And you can also die for fighting for other things, being an activist of other fields. Like we had a gentleman who was killed some years ago in Karen. He was Jonan Strasberg. He was 67. He was an environment activist. He was killed. And a lot of activists in Kenya have been killed in the line of duty. We had people like Oscar Kengara and John Oworo. They were killed because they provided information as to what transpired in the post-election violence that was in Kenya in 2007. We have the latest one they are calling Caroline. And the police in Kenya twisted the narrative as to how Caroline mother died. They said, oh, she aborted, she died during abortion and such. And some people who are not keen observers, they bought that narrative by the police. But we know the truth that Caroline mother was killed because of her access to work in defending the youth in those informal sectors, Madare, Korogosho, Dodora, those who are less fortunate of the society, who are being killed anyhow by the police. That's why Caroline was killed. But they twisted the narrative, said, oh, and they brought even a pathologist who said, oh, it was abortion, but that was all the truth. The truth was she had a lot of evidence about police extrajudicial killing in these informal sectors. That's why she lost her life. So I would like to encourage people we keep on fighting for justice and for the truth and for how to make our countries better. Because if we don't fight, as Judah has said, if Mau never fought, then there is no way we could have been having independence in Kenya today. If there was no freedom fighters in Tanzania, Tanzania could still be under the British colony today. So each and every one of us has a part to play. Be an activist, maybe in education, in human rights, in environment, or in other fields. As I say, the greatest tragedy in life is not death itself. It's a life lived without a purpose. So find a purpose for your life and make sure you fulfill your purpose. Now we remember Wangari Maathai, we remember Jude, the other women. And because of these women who went to Oses Cathedral, the political prisoners more finally give in. Because what these women did, they give a petition to Amos Wako, who was the Attorney General, to go and give it to Moi. And then Wako, I don't know whether he gave it to Moi. They went to see Moi. Moi refused to be seen by them. But due to international pressure of these women, the pressure that the international community could see, finally, Moi gave in and he released the children of these political women. I think it was in 1992, around there. Most of them were set free. So if it was not for these mothers fighting for their son and not fighting for second liberation in Kenya, then we couldn't be where we are today as people who can talk, who can hold these spaces without the then special branch, intelligence listening to us and such kind of thing. So I would give her sorry for her, but I tell her that her work is not in vain. I'm sure when Jude sits down today and sees the progress that we have made in Kenya, she's proud of being a part of the movement that brought us as a country. Yes, we haven't reached, but at least somehow we are not where we were during the Moi's time. So I thank her and I tell the young people to take up this mentor. And these days, as I've said, that a lot of young people, I don't know why they don't want to join this activity movement and they're fighting for a better country for themselves. But as we hold such spaces, I know maybe they'll be awakened up. They'll see that there is a better life that can be lived other than this one that we are living today. Asante sana.
Asante sana Mwaura. Clement, you are back as well. Hebu tumsikilize Clement. Pole.
Nashukuru sana Damari. Hata sielewi niliishia
Ulikuwa
wapi,
nataka
nilikuwa
kuuliza
naongea
swali. Ulisema swali lako la kwanza.
Sawa. Nashukuru sana. Swali langu la kwanza nilikuwa nasema katika haya masuala ya kupigania na kutetea haki, wengi tunakumbana na vitisho vya kila aina. Siwezi kuvitaja hapa, lakini unakumbana na kila aina ya vitisho. Sasa swali langu la kwanza ninataka kumuuliza da Muthoni, nini ushauri wake kwetu sisi watu tunaopigania haki tunapokumbana na vitisho vya kila aina? Manake baadhi ya vitisho vinakufanya mtu ufikirie mara 20 ni kitu gani kinaendelea, manake utegemei yani kupata aina ya vitisho kutoka kwa mtu ambaye unafikiri ni binadamu mwenzako. Kwa hiyo nini ushauri wake kwa hasa kwetu sisi ambao hatuna uzoefu sana yani kwenye haya masuala? Nini ushauri wake juu ya vitisho vya aina hiyo unapopata mtu? Alafu labda akijibu hilo nitauliza swali la pili. Sijui kama niulize maswali yote alafu atajibu kwa pamoja au nianze na moja.
Clement, maswali yote mawili.
Okay. Kwa hiyo hilo nimeshalimaliza, sijui kama
imeeleweka kabisa, endelea.
Nashukuru. Swali la pili, ukiangalia watu mambo wanayoyafanya yani kwa hasa kwa watu ambao wako sahihi kabisa katika kupigania masuala ya haki, na kiukweli ni kwamba masuala ya haki yanamhusu hata yule mtu ambaye ni anafanya ukatili. Sasa kwa uzoefu wako dada Muthoni, kwetu sisi tukiwaona watu mambo wanayofanyia binadamu wenzao, tunaona kabisa yani watu wametoka kabisa kwenye ubinadamu, sio binadamu. Sasa nataka nikuulize dada Muthoni, wewe kwa uzoefu wako ukiwatazama hawa watu, huwa unawaona ni watu wa aina gani? Maanake kwangu mimi, yani hawa sio binadamu, yani kabisa kabisa.
Haya, subiri, I want to connect Muthoni to the mic so that mtapata vizuri majibu yake. Kwa hiyo nipeni tu dakika chache. Okay, Muthoni, I think you have heard. Yeah.
Asante. Asante Clement, na niwie radhi sababu Kiswahili changu ni cha bara, na
unaweza ukaongea Kiingereza tu dadangu,
niweze kuelezea vizuri kuliko kung'ang'ana na lugha.
Sawa, amesema hata unaweza ukaongea kwa Kiingereza kama utakuwa comfortable, hana shida.
Ndiyo, ongea tu Kiingereza.
So, first and foremost, we need to come up with strategies to secure ourselves because we are very few. We have to come up with strategies to secure ourselves. And that is not to invite fear. It's just to be strategic. You need to be strategic. When we started organizing as a release political prisoners, that time, and that was immediately after kipindi cha Mwakenya na watu kushikwa, kupelekwa kotini after Nyayo House, masaa za usiku, na kuna magistrate na majaji wanakaa hizo saa, na prosecutor ambaye alikuwa kazi yake ni hiyo tu, kupeleka hawa watu, wakishafanywa torture mpaka wanakubali kusign hizo whatever statements za incriminate. Anaambiwa asipofanya hivyo atauawa, so anasign, anapelekwa kotini, ndio aondokea ile torture, at least aende jela. Now, as young activists and learning from those who were there before us and had been involved even in the underground, we learned not to live in isolation. Natumai Clement ananisikia. Don't live in isolation of yourself. Uhakikishe kwamba kuna wenzako kadhaa wanajua uko wapi kila saa, kila wakati unaendaje. Manake likikupata jambo wataweza kupiga nduru, ama wataweza angalau kufuatilia. Pili, ni lazima tukubali kwamba hata katika hizi mitandao saa zingine zinadhoofisha utendakazi wetu wa kuleta mabadiliko kamili, sababu hatuna uhakika hata sasa, hawasikizi vile tunasema, ni nani anaongea, ni anasema nini. Na mimi nafikiria kwamba ile strategy ya DTM, sijui kama wengi wenu mnajua DTM, December 12 movement, ilikuwa ni underground movement, ilianzishwa haswa na akina Dr. Willy Mutunga na wengine, akina Anyang' Nyong'o, akina Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Mishere Mugo, wakifunza katika vyuo vikuu, na wakaanza kuhamasisha wanafunzi, sababu wanafunzi wametoka from all over the country, so walikuwa wanajua wanafunzi wakirudi manyumbani kwao wataenda na ile information. But it had to be done underground because all avenues in open ground were blocked. You didn't talk about the government in any forum ambapo utasikika na mtu. There was such fear in this country that people thought even in their bedrooms, Moi's government would hear them. They talk in whispers. You couldn't speak in matatus, you couldn't speak. And it was by law not allowed for more than 5 people to gather together. So, in short, what I'm saying is, Clement, we have to strategize. There are things we can do online, and there are things we must adopt other strategies until we build a critical mass that even if they killed 1 or 2 of us, kazi itaendelea. In short, that's the only thing I can tell you. The thing is, there's a young girl, I think her name is, she's my friend and I keep forgetting her name. I think her name is Waidera. Recently there was some protest in Nairobi and they were accosted by police and she refused to board. She refused to be arrested. She refused. She said, unataka kunishika nimefanya nini? Why do you want to arrest me? And somehow those police feared arresting her. And when they left her alone, she did, she gave a slogan that now we have adopted as, a very strong slogan. She said, when we lose our fear, they lose their power. When we lose our fear, they lose their power. That I can attest to. Because the time released political prisoners, young people, decided we are going to protest in the streets. It was never heard of in Kenya that people could dare Moi government in the streets. And it was terrible. We were beaten. But we decided whenever we are going outside, we are going to chain ourselves together. Let us die together. You are not going to walk alone. We were chaining ourselves together, holding hands. And they were beating us with rungus and all that, but we held hands. We would sit down. Because when you run away, then you are showing them your back, and now you are empowering them. Police sometimes behave like dogs. When you run away from a dog, even if it had fear, you have given it power to bite you. Okay? But when you stand there and you face it, it will just bark at you, but it can't bite you. And so protests have to be organized. The more people, the merrier. The more people, it means they can't target one person. And so organizing have to be done. If it has to be done underground first, before you come overground, that is what needs to be done. But the struggle must continue. Now, to the second question. These people are human beings. Unfortunately, they have consciously decided to treat their fellow human beings the way they do. Okay? And when we see them as human beings, then we will not fear them as much as we would fear wild animals. Right? And so, it is just raising our consciousness. Wanaweza kuua mwili, lakini hawawezi kuua jabali lililo ndani yako. And so, once we raise our consciousness to that level that they know they can't get away with behaving the way they behave and treating people the way they treat people, that is when we'll start looking at them not as animals. Of course, the things they do, they are like animals, but they are human beings. They've just chosen to do that. And they have a conscience. And they have a conscience. And they have a life too. We get to a level where we also, just the same way they target even our families, we also approach them even from their own personal, because when they're in uniform or when they're in office, they behave like they're not normal people, as in you and me, with a family and all that. We need to strategize in a way that we start debunking them and letting them know that even if they behave like animals, we still treat them as human beings, and we call upon them we demand of them to treat other human beings the way they should be treated. Otherwise, we'll be inviting a lot of fear on ourselves. It's just the way we take also a few of us who have contributed to the struggle, and we raise them to a level of heroism. Heroism is not bad, but heroism that makes you feel you can't do like they have done, also to me, it huwa inadhoofisha the struggle, because we look at people like Mandela and we say you cannot be like a Mandela. He's a hero. It's like he's next to God. No, you can be a Wangari Maathai. You can be a Mandela. You can be a Karimindutu. You can be a Mudhoni. You can be anybody that you consider to be a hero or a heroine. Oh, hello?
Yes, yes.
Oh, someone is calling me. That's why it's
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know how to cut her. Oh, let me see.
But we can hear you clearly.
Oh, okay. I've nimeikata.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my answer to Clement. Courage does not mean that you walk into danger. If you see danger, we need you tomorrow. Courage means having the consciousness of mind to know, even if they take you through torture, they cannot, hawawezi kuua jabali lako. They can't kill your purpose. They can't kill your, they can't kill what is in you. And someone they can kill the body, but someone will pick up what you are doing and they will move on. Yeah? Courage is not the absence of fear. I can tell you the many times we were out there in the streets and I was very fearful. But that did not mean I will not face those police. It's not the absence of fear. Because if you are looking for a situation where you're never going to fear, then you're never going to do anything. If fear holds you from organizing, if fear holds you from questioning, if fear holds you from protesting, then you can't be in activism. You have to look for other ways of preserving yourself. But again, you can't. Okay, let me give an incident here. There is a settlement that was being attacked, an informal settlement, as we call them. It was a slum. Some tycoon wanted to grab the land where these people were living. Eventually, they were thrown out, but at that time, they called on us, and they called on us as release political prisoners, and we went to help them before the police came. But that tycoon was organizing goons of people to attack them. And so when we got there and they saw us, they came towards us with all manner of weapons because they thought we are goons who have been organized, sent again to attack them. Now, one guy, out of the blues, he was one of us, but, thinking that he is very courageous, he stepped ahead and now was trying to address these people. And it took the rest of the comrades to tell him, move back. You need to move back and let the chairperson, especially because you are a man and she's a woman, you need to let her be at the forefront so that she can be able to calm these people and that they can understand we have come in peace, we have come to join them to help them. And that's an incident. It's not against the police. It's a situation where this guy was just walking into danger because being a young man, and those people thought these are the same people who are sent to harass them, he would have made us be beaten for nothing. It's the same thing. If you find a stupid policeman, and he's overzealous, we say an overzealous police, do not engage that person. we need you, because even if he shoots you and then he's taken to to court or whatever, but we have lost you, and we are very few of us on this side. The police can be replaced, but on our side we are very few. So save yourself and re-strategize. Make your point without hurting yourself, but don't be cowed away or wait for a moment where you will never get hurt, because there isn't such a moment. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, just hold on. I'm going to put you back on.
All right. I think this is definitely an endless conversation that really needs to be picked up again and again and again, especially with the evolving situation when it comes to democracy, when it comes for standing up for different causes in the society. It does not have to be only about human rights. It's something that is ever evolving, and it's something that really needs to be talked about in the society. Activism is clearly a tireless struggle for a better world, for the next generation, and is one that never seems to end. It's our hope that we can really keep this spirit alive and keep supporting these heroic men and women who are defenders of the society, who put their well-being, safety, and even their lives at risk in pursuit of their ideals and fighting tirelessly for change. As Mudhoni has brought up, you cannot just sit back and watch the society rot or watch an evil keep springing up in the society, sit there and do nothing about it. So it's definitely something that we need to keep encouraging the youth stand up and speak out against evil deeds in the society. Maybe Judy, I'd like to give, I don't know if you'd like to give a parting shot, or you've already spoken out everything that needs to be said tonight. But on behalf of Mwanzo TV, I'd like to thank Judy, our speaker for today, our hero. And of course, for all the listeners for tuning in and participating and sharing your questions and contributions tonight. As I said, this is definitely a conversation that needs to keep going, that we really need to pick up again. Remember, we do this every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on Mwanzo TV Spaces. And I've been your host, Joy Tepto. I'd like to say thank you so much for tuning in and listening in. And until next time, if I could hand over to my co-host, Maria.
Thank you very much. And I also want to point out it was a bit not so easy for me, because I wanted to make sure that Judy also is part of this conversation. So I'm sorry if I was not as quick as I wanted to. I want to point out to everyone that Mwanzo Spaces, as you said, is every Wednesday, but you can also suggest topics that you want. Judy will also be invited back during this month of February. So kama mlivyoona kwa Clement, kama una swali kwake kwa Kiswahili, hasa ukiwa kama Clement unataka kujua masuala ya wanaharakati, then uwe huru kabisa. Mudhoni anajua vizuri tu Kiswahili, sema Kiswahili cha Kenya kidogo kuna wakati labda inakuwa tofauti, lakini tunaelewana vizuri tu. Na pia ana ushauri mwingi sana, kwa sababu miaka mingi, siku hadi siku, alikuwa yuko barabarani na kuongoza maandamano na mambo mengine. Kwa hiyo as always, naomba niwashukuru sana wote ambao mmefika katika space. Tumerekodi, lakini naomba pia niwaambie kwamba mahojiano with Mudhoni iko Mwanzo TV. Unaweza ukaiona hapo juu nimepin, but hata Mudhoni mwenyewe kama nilivyosema atakaporudi baadaye mwezi huu, basi nadhani tutakuwa tumejitayarisha vizuri na maswali. Thank you very much for everyone, and I'm wishing you all a good night. Thank you, Joy, for the great hosting as well.
All right, thank you, everyone. Until next Wednesday, same place. Tune into Mwanzo Spaces. And remember, as Maria said, check out the Shangazi Power, the pinned episode hapo, so you can get to know Judy's full story. All right, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Have a good night.